will speak about EB visas, and I will then talk about the residency application. So I'm going to play this video just to give us a brief overview about the Nigerian Center and how it got started.
My name is Gbenga Ogunjimi, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Nigerian Center. The Nigerian Center is the very first Nigerian American immigrant and community center. While we are called the Nigerian Center, we serve all minority and all immigrant groups in the United States. In many immigrant communities across the country and around the world, whether they're Chinese or Jewish or Latinos or even Ethiopians, there is an actual location members of those communities can walk into to support the American dream and American experience. While the Nigerian community individually has prospered, we now have an opportunity as a community to have our own Nigerian Center.
I am most excited to be a part of the Nigerian Center because we are a resource hub. And we know that while a lot of Nigerians we may know come into the country and they have a connection here or there is a huge population that don't have access. I can speak to thinking about maybe 30, 40 years ago when my parents came to the country. And while my dad came to the country through education, my mom came through a lottery. And when she got here, she had to do things a regular way. You know, she came to New York, hustled, worked at McDonald's for like 2 weeks. And from McDonald's, she started getting, other menial jobs before she was able to meet my dad. They got married, they had children. My mom didn't go back to school. Until she was like 40 to finally start her career. And I know that if there was something like the Nigerian Center, she could have been afforded opportunities, access information on how to go to school or how to start her own business if that's what she wanted to venture into.
I remember my uncle, I think I was like, he got deported. I haven't seen him in years because he can't come back in this country. If he had had the resources that the Nigerian Center offered, maybe it would be a different story.
As a pastor, and I can speak confidently for the church community. A lot of pastors struggle with the kinds of immigration challenges that their members are having. And sometimes when we pastors meet, we joke about the fact that there's this thing that is, the don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. A principle that most Nigerians are engaging in. They don't tell you what they are going through. Some of them are dying in silence. By the time they speak up, sometimes it's too late. And I know that as a pastor, I could have, the Nigerian Center will have come handy in helping people to know what is right, having the right information, speak to the right attorney, have the right representation in court, and just to make the journey easier and smoother in the United States.
People come here from different paths. But the same main reason is to get a better life, get a situation for their family. So there are numerous ways, there are numerous paths to the United States and to citizenship. So we help people with family-based immigration, employment-based immigration, asylum, refugee cases, student visas, pretty much everything that the law allows us to assist people with the process of immigration.
Just having this center here, it's just people identified that looks just like us. We can get the resource from. I mean, this is something that even me as a grown-up young person just wanted to come. I wanted to know that it belongs here. I'm just happy that this is here. I wish that my mom and dad, they were still alive to witness this experience.
From the time my parents came from Kenya, they immigrated to New Jersey, and that's where they actually met. It took years for my mom to find employment. My dad has stayed at the same job for 25 plus years in fear of not being able to find other employment. Not even that, being able to purchase a home, it took them 25 years to buy their dream home. Having the health care aspect and having health insurance for my siblings and I, Nigerian Center is providing a service from all crosses across the board for immigrants.
And Nigerian Center provides opportunities with immigration and naturalization, provide home ownership opportunities, access to capital, language classes, and cultural programs.
Learning about the Nigerian Center was a godsend. You know, growing up, I used to think about how we can share our experiences and our culture. And oftentimes, Nigerian people are so interested in giving back, but there are few opportunities and motives to do so. So when I heard about the Nigerian Center, it just clicked. We're talking about home ownership. We're talking about financial literacy. We're talking about immigration services, not only for people from our background, diaspora, but for everybody else as well who came from it. I see the Nigerian Center not only as an opportunity to celebrate our culture, but to also share it as well.
I welcome you to be a part of the journey and to be a part of the experience. Welcome to the Nigerian Center.
So that was a brief overview of Nigerian Star Center and how we got started. Now I'm going to talk about some of our upcoming events. So I'm sure you are all aware that um, Independence Day is coming up in October. Nigerian Center will be hosting an event October 16th through 18th with Guinness. The venue will be Guinness Open Gate Brewery, and we hope you can come and have fun. There should be food, music, and lots to do. So please save the date. Also, if you would like to intern for us in any of these listed areas, please feel free to reach out to us and email us at info@nigeriancenter.org. Also, just wanted to let you all know that we are currently offering free legal services for detained immigrants. So please reach out if you know anyone who is currently in detention. We can offer some free support and legal representation. I would just like to also add that if everyone can please put their mics on mute. Next, we also host our weekly immigration clinic from 12:30 to 4:30. If you would like an appointment, you can feel free to reach out to info@Nigerian Center or go to our website. We do offer both in-person and virtual meetings. We also offer tax preparation if you are low income. So please, if you need help preparing your taxes from this year or from a prior year, just let us know and we can help you. We also are currently hosting language classes for Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa. If you're interested in joining, we should be having another session later on this year. I am currently in the classes and I think they are very great and informative and great for an introduction.
Excuse me, our next language class cohort is actually in the winter 2027.
We also, if you would like to volunteer, please just let us know. And please follow us on social media. Here we have our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Please, it's all at the Nigerian Center or Nigerian Center. So follow us. We can provide updates and information. If you would like to donate to Nigerian Center, please feel free to use that link. Next, we will go into our presentation on employment-based applications. Our first speaker will be Gbenga Ogunjimi, and I will hand it over to him.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just I'm going to share my screen now, if that's okay. So you might need to stop sharing. Excellent. Can we please know where we are all joining from to make this a little bit more interactive? If you can please chat in the chat box what location you're joining us from, that would be fantastic. I can see we have a full house today. Thank you all for participating. I'm waiting for the comments to come in. So please chat the location you are joining us from. Okay, I see California. I see Oklahoma, Maryland, Canada, Washington, Texas, Abuja, Nigeria. Yes, amazing. Washington, D.C. Excellent, 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 excellent. I see all these amazing places we're all joining us from. That is wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna get right into the presentation. There will be time for question and answer, so please hold your questions. If you want me to respond to them as we go, you can do so. You can put them in the chat, but if you want to hold on to the Q&A session, there'll be opportunities for live Q&A. So our presentation, I see more people joining. Let us let them in. Okay, give me 1 second. I see more people joining. Just want to allow them to join in real quick. Okay, so let's get right into it. So the overview of today's presentation, we're going to cover these 5 major areas: employment-based, immigration categories. You're going to look at EB stands for employment-based. So we're going to be looking at EB1 to EB5 categories, and we also will be looking at other employment-based pathways that are not EB from EB1 to 5. We'll be exploring the concept of national interest waivers. How do you build a strong case to support your petition? And over the years, the frequently asked questions that we have received. So before we get started into all these areas, I just want to start, by telling us my story. Some of us might be familiar with our story. EB1 was the pathway I had to come to remain in the United States several years ago. I've been here. I came to the United States on a J1 visa. It was the State Department exchange program. And that program told us to change the world, that we've come to Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, and we have the entire world access to our fingertips, and we should take advantage of this opportunity and imagine how we can make the various countries we are from, America and the rest of the world, a much more better place. So young change makers and do-gooders really all brace to change the world. And that really got me started to think about what need can I actually make in my local community. And I did some research around this local DMV area, and the impact that target that I had was the sector of international service. And this idea that the Peace Corps program provides opportunities for young Americans to go around the world to serve, to take the American ideals of freedom, of liberty, of progress, of development, of prosperity, and evangelize that around the world. When these young change makers, do-gooders go overseas to serve, they become the experience of American local communities will have. I, however, identified some gaps. I thought the vast majority of the demographic that participate in these international service opportunities, they were in minority communities. And I thought, why is that so? And what I knew about international service opportunities, they are the pathways, for foreign service. They are the pathways for international development. They are the pathways for diplomatic service. But if you're not having the opportunity to go overseas to serve like the Peace Corps, how would you accelerate your access into those pathways? So I decided to do something about it. I started a non-for-profit organization, and I was targeting minority communities. I was taking them to various countries in Africa. We started in South Africa with the World Bank. The World Bank had an info dev program then. A lot of diaspora talent were highly trained and educated, and I would target during their sabbatical they can go to South Africa to serve. It was about the time where, there was this lingo going on, Africa need trade, not aid. And I was thinking about how can we support the local businesses. So I designed a model that I consider to be the Peace Corps for startups on the continent. The idea that when the small businesses have talent, they can scale, they can employ more people, they can add to the growth of that country. And we expanded from South Africa to East Africa, and then to North Africa, West Africa, so pretty much across the country. And I'll go back and forth from those countries to the United States. I did not understand the American visa or immigration law. I had a regular B1, B2 visa, and I had this moment that altered my trajectory at the Atlanta International Airport. And I was coming back to the country, and the CBP immigration officer asked what my mission was in the United States. I told them that I'm back to continue to run my social enterprise. And they said, "Oh, you have a business in the United States?" I said, "Yes, I do." They said, "Tell me more." And I opened my mouth and I told them all this business I was running and all this work that we're doing. And the man looked at me in the face. He said, "They're going to deport me and they're going to deny my entry into the United States, that I was working without authorization. And I was being scheduled for expedited removal from the United States." And I asked the man nicely if I can speak to a supervisor, and he obliged me. And he said, "Yes, you can." And I was escorted to the waiting room, and there were a lot of us there. And one by one, we were being removed from the country and being deported. They would never enter the United States again. It was my turn. I was interviewed again. I told them everything I told the initial officer. And this gentleman said, "You know what? Give us some time to do some research." I was there for several hours. They did their research, they came back and they said, "You know what, your story checks out. I would like you to get changed from your business visa to an EB visa. And you can actually go into the country and self-petition. You don't need anyone to do that for you. And you can go to, it was a Saturday, so on Monday, you can go to the immigration office. You're going to ask to fill out this form. You're going to petition for them. And that's exactly what I did. And that journey actually led me to create the Nigerian Center. Just thinking about, I knew there was a chance encounter, there was a miracle that I wasn't deported. And I thought that have to have a higher purpose attached to it. And when I researched across the country, I wasn't seeing any Kenyan center or Ethiopian center or Nigerian center. So I started the Nigerian center so we can have a pathway for all of our community members. We can have conversations like this. We can help our folks in detention. We can have a legal aid program that can prepare us for that moment. And some folks said it's prophetic because we never knew we were going to be in this climate, that we now have the training and the expertise that we've had over the years to support our community member. So that is my journey. So I petitioned for the EB1 pathway and I was approved for that pathway, and I remain in the country now, continuing to run the Nigerian Center. And I think that is what we see a lot of our community members. I never heard EB1 before my encounter with the ICE officer. Just imagine an ICE officer in this climate pulling you aside and actually educating you and letting you know what your options are. Can you imagine there was a time like that in the United States, that the enforcement officer actually give you legal advice and actually help you navigate the opportunities in the country? So that was my story, and that is why this particular topic is very, very dear to my heart. That said, so let's look at other pathways. I just want to quickly run through this. I won't be elaborating on them. I will be talking more about EB 1 to 5. But for those who came to the country on a F1 visa, they have the OPT program that they can have access to. And those in the STEM, science, tech, all of that, engineering, all of that, they have an extension after 1 year to remain in the country. And there is the H-1B visa. There's the cap exempt that you can do outside the lottery, and you can do with the lottery. These 4 options, you do need an employer to petition for you. There is the O visa, which is the extraordinary ability visa for those who are overseas to be able to petition for themselves in the United States. It does not transition into green card, so you may need to adjust after a while. It doesn't automatically go into a green card. The equivalent for that have the opportunity to switch into green card is the EB1 that you petition in the United States. I also want to highlight this pathway that a lot of folks may not be aware of. It is the J1 Research Scholar and Exchange Visitor Programs that you can also get an employer to petition for you. The language will have to be very distinct. So you will be participating as a researcher. You can work in any organization, but your work will be to contribute to the research and development of that organization. And there's a lot of creativity from an HR standpoint with that particular pathway. It does not also lead into permanent residency. There is the E1 and E2 treaty and investor visa. The United States has a treaty with a ton of countries. There are a few countries in Africa. Nigeria is not one of them. I believe Togo, Tunisia, and some countries. Whenever U.S. has a treaty with your country, you also have a pathway on the business side that you can take advantage of. So those are some options for us to research further. And that's it. We're going to go into EB1 visa. The EB1 visa is titled the first preference, and it is the extraordinary ability category EB1 visa. I want to highlight the word extraordinary ability. And this recognizes individuals with sustained record of national or international claim. These are nationally and internationally accomplished individuals. Think about those who may have national awards, those who have industry awards, those who have led huge successful corporations, those who have risen to the highest echelon in their various fields. They may include have prizes, awards, significant publication, original thoughts, contributions. They have been invited to judge others' work. They command a salary, extraordinary achievement. One of the benefits of this category is that you can do concurrent filing. So the initial form is the petition form that you fill is the 140 form. And when that is approved, then you're able to apply for your green card. Oftentimes with this category, when visas are available, and a lot of visas are usually available for this category because it's not as saturated as others and not a lot of people qualify for this. You'll be able to do concurrent filing. You can actually self-petition yourself. You don't need an employer, like I told you my story, to be able to do so. I should highlight that this category focuses primarily on demonstrated accomplishment, proven record of excellence, rather than future potential. So a funny and a very interesting story I want to share with you, experience that I had when I petitioned for EB1 category. And this was a lot of years ago. And when I first got my response, USCIS, they were not generous with their words. The individual reviewing my application tore it up into pieces, said I don't have anything called extraordinary anything. I didn't have a master's degree about that time. I told them that I had this fellowship program that I came for. They said, well, your fellowship program is an entry-level fellowship experience training program at best. It is not nothing international or highly accomplished. It's a training entry level at best. I was like, oh my God, how would I overcome this objection? And I responded back. I said, well, I respect your commentary on my um, accomplishment or my experience, but this is my rebuttal. While you may consider it an entry level training program, where I'm coming from is Lagos, Nigeria. It's a globally competitive opportunity. I was one of the very few individuals in my country to be able to get this fellowship, to have the opportunity to come to the United States. And when I came to the United States, it was 50 of us from around the world. And the track was literally development leaders training program for the best nonprofit leaders in the world. Out of the group of 50 young leaders from around the world, I was the only one that went on to start a social enterprise. And look at what my social enterprise have done. We have programs in 10 major countries. We have put this number of people to work. We have brought this innovation and development to these communities. I do not have a master's degree, but I think this experience qualifies for one. And guess what? A couple of months later, I saw my approval came into the mail. So I think what I love about EB visas, it really gives you the opportunity to tell your story. And with the age of AI, people go online and fabricate and amplify and make all these things up. Those are good, but I think don't discount the opportunity to actually tell your story. And that is exactly what happened. You will be amazed that if you actually will go through your accomplishments, that there are certain accomplishments that is uniquely yours, your story, and they really want you to bring that forward. And I also think with EB1, you should be able to have a different perspective. It has to be some form of originality in your thought. And think about having some form of proprietary process or contribution to your industry. I was just speaking to a group of college or graduate or students, and I told them that when you are going out of this institution, you're not going to work for a company. You're going to work for an industry. So you have to start seeing yourself as an industry leader or thought leader. And what this category pathway is asking you is, can you articulate your vision for your industry to make it much more better than is currently right now? I told you my own sector was international service. Our market leader was the Peace Corps. The gaps I identified was the Peace Corps did not have opportunities for the opportunities were there, but the gaps were significant for minority young leaders to go overseas to serve. That is one gap. The second gap identified why this Peace Corps volunteers, why they go into various communities in the global south. I thought there was an opportunity for them to actually take their international experience, their educational training, their professional training, and apply that to local businesses. That was the contribution I brought through the sector. That was at that time, really proprietary and much more forward looking. So I was able to envision an entire new paradigm for my industry. So I think those are the type of language you would want to make in articulating your expertise. It is not enough that you have all this training. We really want to look at how does it transform your current industry playbook? How does it really upgrade it, bring a whole new innovation into this? So those are the things you want to start thinking about when it comes to EB1. Let me pause a little bit and just check with folks with that. Are there any specific questions about EB1 before I move to EB2? You can put it in the chat box. You can put up your hands so I can let you come up. If are there any questions? about EB1 before we go to EB2? Okay, I need some form of comment so I can know that we are communicating. There's a lot of talking with no response back. How are we doing? Are we on the same page? Is the content resonating? Are you seeing application? Do we have questions, commentary, something? Please. Continuing. Okay, I see that. Okay, awesome. Okay, I see that. Do you need proof of highly paying job for EB1? Okay, that's a good question. Thank you, Chinoso, for that question. Yes, it is not a mandatory requirement. And it helps if you have that. If you don't have that, you can still get it. If you have someone that commands a high salary that is not as typical for your level of expertise or where you work, you can actually document that as well. I was a volunteer when I applied. I came here as an international volunteer. I had a stipend, and our stipend then was below minimum wage or around minimum wage, when I came here, and that was my salary, so it is not a mandatory requirement, but if you have that, that can count for you as well. Okay, so we're going to move forward to EB2 right now. I believe I have the approval to tell this story. I want to tell the story of someone on our team who I respect so much. I'm not gonna say their name because I didn't ask permission to tell the story. So unless they tell me not to do so in a chat box. But anyway, I'll tell the story. I will tell their name. So we just opened the Nigerian center, and I was doing intakes when people were coming to the center with our attorneys then. And this young woman came and walked into the center. They came from Johns Hopkins University, one of the top college universities in the country. And they were, for those of us who came from Johns Hopkins, I have nothing but highly commendation for your institution. In the words of this individual, they were underwhelmed with the level of post-graduation support they received from their institution. They were expecting that when they finish school, they're going to roll over the red carpet. They're going to meet with a ton of lawyers, and there will be employers lining up, for them to give them all these opportunities, post-education. And to their disappointment, none of that happened. And somebody told them, oh, there's a Nigerian center that offers free classes, free legal services. We can go there and speak to a lawyer. So she came. And she spoke to a lawyer, and they told her that, oh, have you considered the EB2 NIW category? And she, explored that. And then she joined us as a volunteer, and she'd put in the application, and she was working with us as a volunteer for over a year or so. About that time, Nigerian Center was really growing. We were leading several campaigns. Our visibility was getting evident in the community, and there were opportunity to. She also got that request for more evidence, and then because she was one of the backbone of our work, she was able to document that post graduation. I just graduated. I've not had any formal work experience in America, but I'm volunteering for this nonprofit that is somewhat proprietary and thought leader in our community. They are the first of the kind in our community. They are doing these services that is typical and stable in other communities, but for us is new. More importantly, they are leading systems level impact and change. They are working with Congress, they are working with counties, they are working with communities across the country. And in our work, she was the nexus with all those communities and the center in those communities. And because of that, she thought she has been able to demonstrate a higher level of experience beyond our peers. And she demonstrated the potential of continued contribution to the United States. Guess what? Couple of months later, she got approval, she had a green card, and she is now a legal representative. She's licensed to represent people, and she's been helping a ton of people get the same. So this really happened, and can we just put an emoji, clap, smile, something, to just kind of shout out this person, this amazing story that happened? Can we use the chat function to just give a clap to this person and their story, how it happened? We are so proud. That was one of our very first success story at the center. And it's not just something we did. They actually did it themselves, but in collaboration. So let's look at this. So EB2 also has the opportunity for you to self-petition, but an employer can also help you self-petition as well. So when an employer help you self-petition, they have to get this certification from the Department of Labor saying that your job description has some unique ability that they have to go overseas to hire that American citizens cannot fill. When you do the EB1, it's actually called EB2 NIW, kind of compound words together. Reading it is a national interest waiver because of this person's exceptional ability. Again, think about the language. The language for the first one was extraordinary ability. The language for the second is exceptional. So, and you can see you can see the level. So one is extraordinary, one is exceptional. EB2 is exceptional. So sometimes people would ask, should I do an EB1? Should I do an EB2? For those who have the resources to do so, I've seen people actually apply for both. Now, I would say EB2 over the years has become a lot more saturated. And a lot of people have been able to explore EB2. So the response timeline is a little bit longer. The denial rate is a little bit higher now. So you really have to treat it with the best of your ability, like you're doing an EB1, even though it is EB2. So another benefit of EB2, sometimes when the visa available, like right now, I believe the visa currently available, you are able to do concurrent filing right now with EB1 and EB2. What I like about EB2, though, it places significant emphasis both on your past experience, accomplishment, but also the ability to continue to contribute, like a future potential that you have to the country. I think it's a little bit more generous on the potential side than EB1 is. As I mentioned, this individual was a volunteer. They don't have an employment. They have done something, but they were able to demonstrate that they have a pathway to continue to be able to do such work. So that is what the EB2 is all about. And we do have a slide for frequently asked questions. We've gotten a lot of questions with this EB2 that I'm going to go over in a short while. Okay, so let's look at EB3. EB3 is skilled workers, professional, and other workers. The other in this context is called unskilled, but they use the word other workers. Skilled workers who are persons who are capable of performing skilled labor and whose job requires at least 2 years training or experience, not temporary or seasonal in nature. Other workers or unskilled workers, person capable of performing unskilled labor, requires less than 2 years of training experience. The first time we had this Know Your Rights, one of the attorneys that presented said the very first person they met in their life that had an EB visa was the EB3 category. And this person, those African talking drums was what they do. And they were able to petition that not a lot of Americans can build the talking drum. This was several years ago, and they got it. So this requires majority EB3. I would say though you require some form of employer to really help you sponsor for this category. And also, if the visa are available, you may be able to do concurrent filing as well. So this is something to also think about. If you have a business that you're connected to a potential employer, you can expand your options. It can't just be the EB1 and EB2. EB3 also could be an option too, and you can research this a little bit more with the skilled visa. I believe they have to have some US training or education, or they have to be here for some time. But you have to demonstrate, even though it's skilled or unskilled, it is not a skill set that is widely accessible in the US job market, that is specialized, and it requires some form of experience from where you're from that you have that will justify you to be issued this pathway. Okay, I want to talk about the EB-4, special immigrants. And you may be eligible for employment days in the fourth category visa if you're special in, so this is a religious worker. I want to speak about special immigrant juvenile visa. We have a whole video on this on our Know Your Rights. Please check it out. It breaks my heart at the Nigerian Center Legal Aid Clinic when folks come in, they've been in America for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. A lot of these people come in as a child. And they said nobody ever told them that when they were minor, they could qualify for a pathway called SIJLS, Special Juvenile Immigrant Status. And that pathway for that is the EB-4. And there are some other types of special immigrants, but this particular one is one that our community hasn't taken advantage of fully. And what this means is if you are a minor or if you know someone who is a minor, they are under 21 or 18 years old in some states, and it doesn't have to be both. One of their parents is not with them, has abandoned them, and the abandonment is what really trips people off. That if you're a minor and you're not living with your both parents, there's some form of abandonment in that because cognitively and emotional, you know, uh, all of that wherewithal, they don't have it at that particular time. And when that is the case, or if there's a child that don't have both parents, anyone in the United States can become their legal guardian. In Washington, D.C., in the DMV area, it's 21 years old. In some states, it's 18 years old, so you have to know what state is. And if there's no person, the court can actually, identify a guardian for them. And they can petition for this category and they can have their own green card. So that is one area that I want to flag as well. So that would be the EB-4 category. And lastly is the EB-5 category that is on the business investment side. Give me 1 second. That is on the business side. And so those who are investing into the United States and those who are coming to the United States to do business, but they're investing into the United States. And they've been going back and forth with how much you have to invest. And I think the Trump Visa, Gold Card also fall under this category, those who are actually bringing financial resources into the market. Okay, so let's see. So building a strong case for your EB application, I cannot overemphasize, you really have to tell your story. And, I was just speaking to somebody the other day and they said, that whenever they hear this employment-based category and they see the caliber of people who they know have that, they cannot even factor themselves to be put in the same category with these individuals. But, there is nothing as unique and proprietary than your story. Everyone may have experience than you, they may have other things, but one thing no one has on you is your own story. So you really have to tell your own story and how unique and peculiar your story is. The examples I've shared, including myself, we didn't have all of those lengthy requirements that they have. And even when they pushed back and they downgraded what we call a national or international award, we were able to overcome that barrier because we told our story that is uniquely ours. And I think that is one thing I really, really will encourage you to lean fully in. I remember we had this Know Your Right one time ago, and the attorney said one person they represented that they were even surprised. They told them they didn't have a national award, Guess what this person award was? In Nigeria, our own domestic version of the AmeriCorps program is called the NYSC. And during the NYSC National Service Program, they won some form of a competition. And USCIS accepted that as a national award. Can you believe that? NYSC, America program, they accepted that as a national award. So you really never can tell. Don't downgrade or discount your qualification. The best you can do is just to put it in and see what they say. So I think telling your story will be the very most important thing I really want you to take away from this. And I just um, a moment of introspection, thinking through your professional journey and the milestones that you've had, the successes you've had. If you come to this United States from the country I'm from a lot of countries, a lot of Austin from, you really have to overcome some form of significant barrier for you to be able to come here. Getting a U.S. visa in itself, it's just how you tell that story. How many people do you know that got a U.S. visa where we came from? And what we had to overcome to be able to qualify to get to this country, and you're telling me you don't have a story to tell? There is always a story to tell, So I think thinking about that, surviving in a whole new country that you have to acclimate yourself into, you have to be fluent in their culture and their competency and navigate, thriving and leading a career or business or enterprise or non-for-profit organization in a new country, and you're telling me that is not a story of accomplishment. Think about it. Thinking about the financial hurdles and barriers you are out to overcome, student loan, financing your education, working at night, studying in the morning, juggling multiple things together. In the process, you had a family, you had a child, you had a family situation, and yet you graduated. And you're telling me you don't have a story? There is always a story to be told. And really humanizing your application is really what stands out. Don't fall for this content creative writers. They just generate all this AI bogus narration of your story that does not even resonate with anyone. But if you would sit down, and zoom out from all of these noises and document your professional journey, document your professional accomplishment, you will be really amazed that you truly have a shot to have an EB1. If someone who plays a talking drum that, and I'm not discounting that, can get an EB3, you definitely have a chance. I told you, I didn't have a master's degree then. I was a volunteer, I was earning minimum wage, and the USC officer actually tore up my application. He said, you're not national award anything. What you have is a training program. I think that really boosts my Nigerian ego. So what you have is a training program for entry level at best. It is not an award, a national award. But I was able to overcome that with my story. So tell your story. Obviously, the advanced degree help and our community really thrive in that area. Certification. You always want to think about what more additional edge can I have than my competitors? So there are a ton of certifications you can have. I can also say you should have an EV strategy. You should not just leave this. For some of us, we are ready to go. For some of us, may require, especially those of us who may be overseas or who may still be in university, you have 6 months to a year sometimes to actually have your strategy planned out for you. If you have to get some very specialized training, certification, and licenses, you can do that. Peer-reviewed publication, media coverage, industry journal, contributing to that, been reading about, and also you contributing. You should be doing that. If you don't have op-eds, articles on platforms, you should definitely do that. Before, they used to accept any form of recognized publication. Now they want it to be a little bit more industry niched to your industry, like peer review, to your sector, like journals. So things like that is something that you should also think about contributing to. Conference participation. If there is one thing America tells you, this is not a time to be shy of your accomplishment. This is a time to be loud about it and tell and speak up about it. Speaking opportunities, conferences, you being invited to judge other people's work and to be a review analyst, a competition, all those things also count. I mentioned proprietary contributions to your industry, inventions, patents, even if it's pending, you can also still use that. Even if the patents or inventions were done in the other country, you can also include that. But what is your point of view that is proprietary, that interrogates or challenge your industry playbook? Document that. If you have any form of government recognition, some people have a government recognition and awards. But I told you about this guy, this NYC guy, though, that it's in the US, think about like the Gap Year, America program, America Vista program, all those volunteer type of programs, and they won a community award, things like that. The US used to have the White House um, service award, lifetime achievement, lifetime of service, something like that. The administration discontinued it. I used to have one of those under previous administration. Whenever they open it up, so if you volunteer for a nonprofit organization, you can ask them if they have the presidential service awards, things like that. Letter from recognized experts and elected official. I'll tell you this story. Somebody came to the center and they were doing EB1. And I asked them that, have they contacted their elected official? And they said, how do I do that? And this is another thing I really want to stress, that in America, your elected official are truly here to serve you in a lot of capacity, you know. But you can actually call them. Now, virtually all of them has a constituent service. And you can go to Google and type, who is my elected official in Congress? You can pick up the telephone and call that number. And I think it's an action item. Every single one listening should do that. Introduce yourself. If you have an ongoing immigration, ask them for support. This person lived in Virginia and they called their elected official and they work for the World Bank. And they told them that I was literally there. I said, open your phone, go to Google, type type your zip code, and literally on the phone. And they called. And the person said, okay, I'm going to schedule a meeting to meet with one of our legislative aide. And they set up a meeting, and this person spoke to him and he said, what do you need? So we just need a letter of support to support my application. Guess what? A US congressman wrote this constituency member a letter of support. Yes, I have requested a few of those for some of the Nigerian Center clients, and sometimes they get it. They don't always get it. Sometimes they get it. But also recognized experts in your industry, and if they can speak to your own process and the vision of your contribution to your industry. The last important point I want to highlight is a well-developed plan showing how your work will continue to benefit the United States. A lot of people talk about what they have accomplished overseas, which is great, but you have to make a correlation to how that impacts industry and the marketplace in America. That is really what NIW is all about. You're pretty much saying you have a contribution to be made to making America even more prosperous than it is right now. And this is one area that you really have to demonstrate and you really have to show that. So you have to understand the industry in which you are going to. As I said before, interrogate, elevate, and transform your industry playbook. What is your vision for doing that? You have to be able to demonstrate that. I spoke to someone who does a lot with AI, artificial intelligence, and they talk about how certain communities are not really tapping into the opportunities in that area. And they even elevated it to policy. And they have a public policy background, that how the elected official the body of knowledge or legislation needs to be updated to really understand the framework for responding to AI. And that is one area that you can make a strong case about. What I told them though, don't wait till you get your EB visas. Go ahead and start speaking up to congressional hearing, your county hearing. Be heard, be on record. Go ahead and start documenting and start publishing your perspective towards that field. So those are the things you can do to really, really build a strong case for your petition. The last line before I take questions. These are some of the questions that we've gotten over the years. Which employment-based category is right for me? You can contact the Nigerian Center. We have a free screening that we can do at no cost to you, and the attorneys will go through. We interview you and tell you what our recommendation is, but you can also go and recommend yourself and self-appraise yourself and see where you fit in, which one might be right for you. So call Nigerian Center, ask for how to get to our legal clinic, or whether it's in person, you can always walk into the clinic on Thursday, or you can schedule an appointment. They may get you other parts of the week if Thursday doesn't work for you. Can I apply when I'm still a student? Yes, you can. You can apply when you're still a student. It's a little bit more effective when you have some form of practical experience to back it up, especially those in the graduate student, the PhD student. You can apply for that. With that, I think you have much more to demonstrate if you have professional experience to supplement or complement your academic experience. I can't get over this content writers. So the question is, I do know a content writer. Do I still need an attorney? Well, I don't have problems with you using a content writer. But I think you should get an attorney to review your packet before you submit it. If you can afford an attorney, I think you should get an attorney, and I will explain why. And you can go Google the success rate of immigration petitions with an attorney or without an attorney. And this applies to a lot of areas. And this is one thing I often would say, especially with the ED category, because you are dealing with people who are at genius levels, highly educated. But you are highly educated and genius in your own field. Why do you want to do the work of an attorney for them? And I often would say it is not, when it comes to legal and life in general, but particularly in the legal field, it is not the big, humongous technical things that trips you off. It is the little tiny things that you do, forgetting to sign a document, checking something before. Give an example. So this individual that shall be remain nameless, that I'll not mention their name, when they got their RFP, there was a trick question USCIS hit in the request for application. And only an attorney can help you overcome that. Having done all this work, there was a trick question. The USCIS said, okay, you've demonstrated for us that you've done this exceptional contribution to this nonprofit organization. This nonprofit has said they're going to hire you to remain with them. Can you attach a commitment from that organization that they are going to hire you? That sounds very innocent. And I wrote this elaborate letter. This person is the greatest thing that's happened to us. They're our backbone. This is our financial statement. This is the job we have created for them. This is the desk and table they're going to resume in the office to. And I said, oh, this amazing thing. And she was about to submit it. And April, our supervising attorney, took a look at it and said, I don't think you should include that wonderful letter, Gbenga. And I said, why? Because you are self-petitioning. It defeats the entire strategy for your case. She got a green card in the mail. Can you see something as simple as that? Can a content writer catch that for you? I can tell you people will come to the clinic where there's so much attitude. I know this, I know this. And our attorney said, that is not really what he said. So please, leave to their job. You still work with a content writer. I think they have some skill set they can help you with, but let an attorney accompany that with a representation. They can review it. And you can also bring your packet to the center. We can review it for you. So that is one thing we can also think about. Can I apply if I'm out of status? I don't think so. You cannot apply when we are out of status. You have to be in status, and you have to be to apply, and also you have to be in status to receive it. Unfortunately, so we have a lot of people in our community who are highly, highly educated, but nobody had this know your right with them before they got out of status. Can I apply when my asylum application is pending? The answer is yes, you can. And there's something called consular processing. Maybe Tosin may talk more about this. So when you file the form 45 and even I think somewhere in the 140 is going to ask you, are you going to, in the 140, most definitely, are you going to remain in the United States to adjust your status? Or are you going to go overseas to consular process? You know what I like about EB cases and EB1, and I'm jumping ahead now, the 140 does not expire. So for any reason, even if you go out of status, after you get your 140, you can still go overseas. It's a little bit tricky now with the climate, but you still have a chance to go to the embassy overseas with your approved 140. It does not expire. And you can consular process. You can go overseas to a consulate to do it, or you can remain in the United States. Does premium processing increases my chances for approval? I don't say necessarily adds to the merit of the case, but because of how sensitive the timing is, and a lot of people might be in a very short timeline with their visa, I think we would recommend you premium process so you can get your decision in a couple of weeks, as opposed to waiting for 6 months, sometimes over 8 months, sometimes even over a year to get your decision. Yeah, the 140 does not expire. Can you change my employer after? There's a process to do that. And if you approve with a self-petition, you're not even bound to an employer. How long does the employment process? It's up to the USCIS. For example, there was this oath that really affected a lot of people. But give or take, with any immigration petition, I think the average wait time is usually 6 months to get a response, not a decision, to get a response. And that response may be an approval. So if you get a response than a decision, then you respond to the response. There's another 6 months for you to hear. You may still get another response and not an approval. That pushes you to another over a year. So yeah. Can I travel while my application is pending? If you have other forms of visas, yes, you can travel. If that is the only visa that you have when it's still pending, you cannot. It means you have abandoned that particular application and you travel if your application is pending. So those are the frequently asked questions. Let me open it up. Do we have any questions at this time? Okay, let me look at the chat box.
A lot of questions in the chat.
Thank you, Tosin. And a small business self-pursuit. Yes, you can. Yeah, I told you my story. Yes, you can. But mine was a nonprofit. Yes, you can. Can individuals stuck in asylum limbo have an EAD self-petition? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Let's see.
So some of the earlier questions are, do you need proof of high-paying job for EB1? The answer to that would be no. You do not need to meet all of the requirements listed for an EB1. You only need to meet some of them. So you don't need a high-paying job. Another question asked is, if EB1 if I work with the government in Security and Exchange Commission on top project, but no award, does it count? The answer to that is yes. And again, it depends on your other factors as well, but that would be fine if you don't have any awards. That's okay, but you do need to meet some of those other requirements. Some of the other questions. I believe you just answered the one for Grace. Can individuals stuck in asylum have an EAD self-petition for this visa? We talked about that already. Can a business owner? Yes. Okay. Please, if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat.
I have a question in the chat.
So the next question is, so after responding to respondents, like you said, and you are informed your case has been moved to BALCA for the EB3 category, how do you handle that?
Let's see. Well, are you using an attorney?
Say that again?
Do you have an attorney representing you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm not familiar with BACA. What's that?
BACA would be the Board of Alien, I think, Labor Certification Group. So they do like the certifying officer will respond initially, and then the next thing you probably get another response like you sent. So you have to respond to that response. Either it's a denier, because sometimes they tell you your paperwork is, they say they need like more proof. For example, the case at hand would be the one where the petition talked about the person's job location. The certifying officer had stated that the job location isn't so much as to where they would rather have the person work. And so the legal attorney had to state that that's not valid because typically job location should not be a basis for denial. So the certifying officer to say you could respond to that, but then you have to forward that to, they call it BALCA or Balancia. So that's the Board of Alien Labor Certification Appeal. They're like senior judges who further sort of review the cases. And so there's literally no means to contact them except they contact you, but they give you the time frame at which you have to, drop all this paperwork and all of that so they could, make a decision on AIDS. And then you have to state why the fact that your denial is not a proper denial, because there's literally nothing to deny, but then the certifying officer is trying to prove a point. So it's like a back and forth between the attorney and the certifying officer at this point.
I see. So I think just for more context, I think I have more clarity. So for this, for those who require the labor certification, when you're filling out the labor certification form, there's a specific question that asks you, where exactly would this job be conducted? And you will state the address. And it also gives you some further sub questions options that, okay, is it a multiple location? You have to list all the location. And there's a very heavy legal language when you fill that application that you certify on the perjury and all of that, that everything said in this information is accurate. And they pay a lot of attention to things like the salary, the location. What you can do is before submitting it, you can ask for a revision of, and that is what the attorney should have done. If that is a concern, I've done one of those before, whereby you can recertify it before you submit to USCIS. But in this case, the certification is sending it back to the Department of Labor. Yeah, that is a little bit of a separate, of an interesting case, because at that point it's a little bit not as straightforward, because that certification language is very, very detailed and specific, particularly where the work will be performed. So if they are changing that, they ought to have technically corrected that before they file the application. So we see, when they go back and forth, the attorney may make a superior case while that is the case. Maybe the work location change and they can demonstrate proof why that happened, or they completely move virtual instead of in person. I think that would be an explanation they'll be able to provide for you.
Yeah, so you're right. So because it's both virtual and typically it will be all 50 states the way the company runs. I think the certifying officer's biggest claim was because after the attorney went back with that and then he couldn't negate that. He came back to say that the newspaper, so literally with the EB, I think 2 or 3 categories, the newspapers in which he used to make the ad for the job placement, I guess is a thing. And so he was saying a particular newspaper in a location was not used as the other. And so the attorney had to keep going back to say it's not about the newspaper being used, but to be sure that the ad was done in the first place. So after negating that, the certified officer kind of comes up with another thing. So it's not like a lack of evidence or proof. It's just, I think at this point, certifying officer trying to find a reason where there is no reason to sort of. So now he's attacking the news media to say the newspaper where the ad was published would not be his, choice or whatnot. So that's the next phase. And so that's why they said they had to send it to Valencia to kind of look through that. And so the attorney had to bring up cases of newspapers that were used at certain locations and for things like that.
Wow. Well, thank you for raising that. Please reach out. Let's talk about that offline. But thank you for raising that point. And thus also, just for a learning, teachable moment for every one of us, I think the details on your application are very, very important. I told you how one simple trick question from my colleague could have, messed everything. But thankfully, we got a very great attorney who was able to kind of get in there to prevent that from happening. There's a question you have applied twice for EB visas, 1 and 2. It was denied. I told the stories to the best of my ability. Is that way? Please reach out to the Nigerian Center. I'd like to take a look at your applications and why they were denied. As I said, there was a time that this was an underutilized pathway. It's just a lot of people are now putting in, exploring these options, so the threshold is a little bit more competitive to reach. So reach out, and let's see what we can do. And sometimes people may not just have the requirements. Don't know what your experience or requirements are. Sometimes people may just not have the requirements. Sometimes it could be that particular sector that they consider that they have issued a non-EB visa for that particular industry, and they'll rather want to consider others. But reach out to us. Let's see what we can do with it. Yes, you expect to work for the organization that files your petition. Yes, we do. We provide representation on a sliding scale, meaning that we offer various forms of ability to pay or not to pay, and also some levels of representation. Some of them could be limited-based representation. So we do provide represent clients with EB visas. So please reach out to us. Our contact is in the mail. It's in the chat box rather. So info@nigeriancenter.org, or call the number 202-330-0352. We are open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you call and we're not open, or we're attending to someone, please leave a detailed message and we'll respond back to you. If you can come to the DMV area, feel free to walk into the clinic. If you're not able to walk into the clinic, there's a small fee of $85 to do a virtual consultation. But please reach out. We'll let you know what the options are.
We do have another question in the chat. Someone asks, are you expected to work only for the organization that files the EB Perm visa after approval?
Yes. Yes, so the other ones that have flexibility was the one that you petition yourself the same. There's a different process to be able to change employer. Well, as long as they have an opportunity and you want to work with them, if they sponsor your visa to be able to work with them, as long as, they sponsor the visa, you can work with them. You can petition an other employer. If you want to work for the employer, they have to file a new petition for you. So as long as the job is, and in your Department of Labor document, you would state the years and duration of the employment and the contract in that particular document. And you may be able to renew it or extend it. And once that contract is over, your employment visa is over. unless you have another petition outside of that. I think that's fair. You can always go work for another organization, but you have to be the one to sponsor you. Unless you self-petition yourself.
Yes, I would also like to note that if you leave your job too soon after you receive that approval, it does raise flags to USCIS as to your intent, your original intent when you applied. So it's generally recommended that you do stay at that position for some time before leaving.
It's not get to file an EB3 while filing a marriage. You can always have, we get this a lot of times, you can always find to have multiple open pathways. You can explore all the pathways that you have. If you have a family based and you think you have a chance with EB3, you can pursue both concurrently. As a matter of fact, if your marriage-based petition, you can often supplement with a good attorney that can make a case to supplement these pathways together. While you may have, one approval, and you can demonstrate you have multiple forms of pathways of relief or that you can explore. So that could actually work well for you. And you can decide if the marriage-based petition goes through, then you won't need the EB visa any longer because it does an authorization to work. That is all it is. And your marriage-based is a green card. So that's what it is.
Okay, so I guess now we will move on to the next segment, just in the interest of time. So if you can please hold the rest of your questions until the end, we will have another session where you can ask more questions as well. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. So now I'm going to talk about what happens after you file your I-140, which is the form that you file when you apply for your EB visa. Next, you would file the form I-485 to adjust your status. Some of the requirements include lawful entry into the United States. You must have an available visa, and you must have a clean status, meaning that you have continuously maintained a lawful presence and status in the country. Some of the documents that you have to file are the I-485, your proof of identity, including government issued IDs, passports, your visa stamp, your arrival information, which will be on your I-94, birth certificate, medical examination, financial support. Usually that is not required for EB applications, but sometimes it is. It just depends. If you have an attorney, they will help you out with that. Also, photos and filing fees. This is the current filing fee, but that is subject to change. We have been seeing USCIS increase these fees periodically recently. So that's what it is right now. Okay. So there are two options after you file your I-140. You have the option to do adjustment of status with the I-485, or you can do consular processing. Consular processing is usually done when somebody is out of the country or you had an unlawful presence. So you would choose that option. These two images below just let you know what the process is like and what the difference is between the two. So as I stated, consular processing happens overseas while adjustment of status can take place here in the United States. When you consular process, you're having to use the embassies and the consulates as opposed to adjustment of status where you're filing the I-485 through USCIS. After you've gotten your approval for your I-140, you can file your DS-260 and upload all of that information. the information that you will need for the DS-260 is very similar to that for the 485, and you'll have to upload it to NVC. And then you will be called in for an interview, and then you will be issued your visa. So now, if you have any more questions, please ask them in the chat.
Just one thing I just want to add with the 485 and adjustment of status that we've also been seeing. It's so simple. On the microphone.
One thing I just want to highlight with the adjustment of status is so basic and simple seemingly, but it costs people a ton of months, sometimes years. Your original birth certificate. Just go ahead and put that in your initial document. And if you don't have that, you want to, as part of your as part of your preparation evidence gathering, if you need to go to your local embassy to get it certified or to get some form of things from them, please do that. Especially for a country like Nigeria and some other country which USCIS are designated or flagged with high fraud that comes from those particular region. Any identifiers in that document or that does not matches what USCIS have on record, they may flag it as fraud. So really just want to make sure that, and also it's so funny, and this original certificate, back from where we're from, I've seen original birth certificate, like the issuing person just cross out a name and just made a mistake, and that is the only original they have. And they just make alterations on the original document, and USCIS said it's fraud, and that is only what they have. So it might be important for your attorneys to look at all the identifying documents that you have, and they can advise, even if it might be original, they can issue an expert opinion to say, we might better want to get some form of document from the embassy because this is going to raise another flag. It is not that you will not overcome that. That is how my basket is crossed out. Can you see that? Thank you, NK. Thank you for thank you for saying that. I have seen that. Literally, this is the original issued from the government, and USCIS and the State Department issued this whole report, and they said that is a country of fraud. But that is really the authentic original document. So in that case, even though it's the authentic document, you might not want to proceed with that. You might want to go to the embassy, go to the court and do what you have, let the attorney recommend if this document should go through with your required documents. Things as simple as that. As I said, it's the small little things. I was saying it's not that you will not overcome that eventually, because the truth is the truth, but it may cost you significant time. And this particular pathway, you have a limited time to be in status to apply, to be in status to receive. So as much as possible, you want to get it right the first time.
If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand or put them in the chat. Okay, so I guess we don't have any more questions. If that's the case, I guess we can close it out. So
Thank
this
you, everyone.
will be the last call for questions.
Can I ask a question outside employment-based visa?
Sure, what's your question?
So I currently have an approved I-130 from my mom. She filed for me. And when I filed it, it was under F3 category, but currently my divorce just got finalized. So do I let USCIS know about the divorce right now or when I'm adjusting my status?
That can be your choice. You can choose to update your application or choose to wait until you're adjusting your status.
Okay,
Someone else in the
thank you.
No problem. Someone else in the chat is asking, as a country under ban, can one still file from consular processing? The answer to that is yes, you can still apply. What we're saying is that most people, you'll be able to go for your interview, and then you will be put on some sort of administrative pause if you get an approval. From there, we don't know the timeline as to how long it will take for you to actually get your visa. That is up to when they lift the ban. Someone else is asking, what time do you recommend for someone in their first year of a PhD to apply for EB1, EB2? The entire process takes about 2 to 3 years from start to finish to apply when you submit your I-140 and your 485. So it depends on your situation and how strong your application is. If you feel that currently you have a very strong application, you can apply now so that you'll just go straight through after your F1 is finished. If you feel that your application can be bolstered by doing more extracurricular activities and things of that nature, you can wait. The next person says, do you think premium processing is worth it for EB1? I already submitted my I-140. Oh, for EB2. I would say honestly that premium processing does not guarantee you any special circumstance. So it's a personal decision. If you're on a time crunch and you would like a response faster, then I would say go for a premium processing. But if you don't have any sort of time crunch, then I would say just go for the regular processing. The other issue with premium processing is that you have to make sure that your application is very strong and that there are no mistakes in there. Just because somebody's going to be reviewing it very quickly. And what we've seen is that sometimes they're quick to deny or quick to request more evidence afterwards when you have premium processing. So I think those are all the questions in the chat. If no one else has any questions, okay, when is the best time to apply for change the visa? Okay, so I see someone here is asking about the best time to apply for a change of visa from H-1B to F-1 if H-1B is expiring in April 2027. I think it would be best for you to reach out to us and have a consult. It seems like your situation is a bit more complicated. Our email and number is in the chat. All right, so if we don't have any more questions, I would just like to say thank you all for coming. We hope that this was very informative for you all. And we at the Nigerian Center would just like to say welcome and thank you. Also, lastly, please remember that we have our event coming up. So please save the date, and if you can join us, we would really appreciate that. Thank you. And everyone, please have a great night.